Hi, everybody. It's Mike from Here the Watchmen. And you know what? I'm just so excited about today's show. I really, truly am, because we're going to talk about something that is so off the charts. When I came across it the other day, I was like, I got to get this guy on the show, and we've got to talk about this. I'm pleased, I'm blessed to have with me Mr. Carl Teichrib. He's just a wonderful researcher, a great friend. Does amazing work. And you know, we live isolated up in the mountains of Idaho, where we've had a lot of snow this year, and it's cold. But Carl lives out in the prairies up in Canada somewhere, where I think yesterday it was like, or last 20 below zero, and it's still snowing up there. It's like the land that summer never touches. He lives up there with his wife, and he's his wife and his family, and he's got a wonderful mission that he does up there. Carl, and I'm going to read this, folks, so I don't mess up. Carl is a researcher, a writer, a conference communicator, and he focuses on the paradigm shift sweeping the Western world, including political globalization, socio-religious trends, transhumanism, and important cultural movements. Now, that's a mouthful. His personal research began early in the 70s, and in 1997, he became in the early, I'm going to make him seem a lot older than he is, I guess, sir. In the early 1990s, and in 1997, he became a full-time researcher doing what he does today. He's been to some incredible events. He's attended a range of political and religious and technosocial events in his quest to understand the historical and contemporary forces of world change. Those include going to the Parliament of the World's Religions, Burning Man. Now imagine that. He's a conservative Christian and he goes to Burning Man. God bless him. That's where we need more conservative Christians. And he was part of the United Nations Millennial Forum. His articles have been utilized by Christian authors, information groups, media hosts, pastors, professors, and he's currently working on a forthcoming book called Game of the Gods. Burning Man, the Game of the Gods of Man in the Age of Reenchantment. Carl, thank you so much for being with us today.
Mike, it's a pleasure. Mike, it's a pleasure.
Now, we're going to talk today about what's abbreviated as the MTA. And we are not talking about your local metropolitan transit authority. What we're talking about here is the Mormon Transhumanist Association. Carl.
Yes.
What in the world is that?
Oh, well, that's a great question. It's an organization that exists, and the majority of its members are Mormons, and it holds annual meetings. In fact, the next annual meeting will be taking place tomorrow on April the 7th. And it is an organization that is built around the concept of transhumanism, obviously, because it's a Transhumanist Association, and Mormonism, bringing those two together. The membership isn't exclusively Mormon, however. You have Christian transhumanists, there are atheists, agnostics, but it is built around a Mormon concept. And it's arguably probably the largest religious transhumanist organization in the world right now. And they have done a remarkable job in branding religious transhumanism and bringing that to the forefront of the transhuman discussion. Of course, transhumanism being the idea that technology and science will shape human evolution, and that through our science and through our technology, we can become more than simply man. We can advance beyond humanity. We can become post-human. We can become something different. We can maybe live forever. Maybe we can shed these mortal problems that we have of illness, of aging, and we can potentially find some way to become more than what it means to be a human being. So that's, I mean, it's really the essence of a salvation through the works of our hands. And back in 2013, and this is one of the reasons I'm on your show today, is because back in 2013, I was given the opportunity to speak as a Christian critic of religious transhumanism to the Mormon Transhumanist Association. It's kind of crazy. It was a real wild adventure, just connecting in with the group and being invited to attend their event and speak as a critic. And you know, Mike, I give them hats off. Hats off for bringing in a critic. Hats off for bringing somebody in that's going to challenge and kind of rub you know, in a little bit different way than what they're used to. And they treated me really, really well. They were very kind, very courteous. I was nervous going into it. I'll tell you that. It was, you know, and I'll never forget the president of the organization at the time was Lincoln Cannon, a really nice guy. Lincoln came up to me right before the event even started, and he shook my hand and welcomed me here. And he looked at me in the eyes and he said, "You are brave to be here." And because I felt nervous, I'll be honest, I was nervous. And I looked at him and I said, "Well, you're brave to have me," because I also know that with a Mormon worldview, bringing in a critic isn't something that your community is necessarily going to look favorably upon. So I give him credit too for taking that step.
Well, I got to give you credit, Carl. If it was me, I would have thought I was going to be, you know, put in front of a firing squad or something like that. So I got to give a lot of credit to you for doing that. You know, I mean, it's just incredible. But, you know, why would the Mormon community, especially the Mormon community, be interested in this subject?
Oh, great question. Great question. And we have to go back to what Mormonism, its doctrines teach, which is essentially, and I'm boiling it right down to the essence, that you can become God-like. You can become a God. You can ascend. You can become more than man. You can actually become God-like. That is the ultimate goal. That is the ultimate dream. That there is this exaltation to be more than human, that you are elevated to becoming God. And God in all capacities, all capabilities, in all functions, you become God, or a God. One of many, many potential gods. In fact, gods without numbers, gods without ends. And so that being Mormon doctrine, that being the essence of the Mormon system, the hope and aspiration of Mormonism, the technical scientific side of it, the transhumanist side comes in because now there's like a techno justification for that kind of a faith. And so I can understand why there would be an appeal to technology and science as the way to evolve humanity into becoming something more than human, into something greater than human. It appeals to the theology. It fits to some extent within the theology. In fact, it fits to a large extent within that idea that we can become God-like or as God. Because transhumanism, ultimately, that when you strip the whole thing right down, again, it ultimately says, through our science and our technology, we're going to defeat all these barriers that stand in our way, and we will become more than human. We'll become immortal, or through longevity, we'll experience longevity, or we'll experience some type of enhancements or upgrades. And so much of it has a religious flavor that we can become God-like. And so what looks to be almost like strange bedfellows really isn't.
Very interesting. Now, you had said that the president of the organization, when you went there, gave you a warm reception and you felt comfortable. Now, after you gave your presentation, how did the attendees, what was their perception and what was their thoughts on your presentation?
Well, you know, again, they treated me with respect, and I will definitely stand up and say, hey, they treated me with a lot of respect. And I really appreciated that. Even afterwards, I mean, they knew, Mike, they knew I was coming in as a Christian critic, as a conservative evangelical critic. They understood that. So it was no surprise for them to hear my presentation. In fact, if I had given them something else, I'm sure they would have been a little bit, kind of a little bit wondering, well, where are you going, Carl? But afterwards, I ended up having some really good conversations with some of the different members of the Mormon Transhumanist group, different conversations over the supper table, and even different conversations during the course of that day. I overheard one lady asking another member of the organization, and I was standing in line behind them during supper, and the question came up, well, aren't we going to kind of get in trouble for bringing in, I believe she was a Mormon, aren't we going to get in trouble for bringing in a critic like Carl? I mean, this goes against everything that we really kind of stand for. And so they, like I said, they were taking a bit of a risk of sorts in having me come to the table, but it was good. I mean, we had some good conversations all the way through, some really good conversations. There was no hostility. Disagreement, absolutely. No question. Disagreement. They were bringing me in because there's disagreement. I'm providing a different viewpoint completely, that your science and your technology will not save you. Your good works will not save you. Your rituals are not going to save you. Your priestly obligations, your temple duties aren't going to save you. In fact, in my presentation, and it was only 15 minutes long, Mike. I mean, what do you say in 15 minutes? In my presentation, I wrap up with Jesus on the cross, and on one side is a thief there's a thief who's calling down on Jesus. I mean, he's being disparaging to Jesus. And on the other side is another thief who's saying to this first thief, hey, don't you fear God? This is an innocent man, referring to Jesus Christ. And then saying to Jesus, remember me today. What did Jesus, and this is how I approached it with the group, what did Jesus not say to the man dying beside him? He did not say, well, buddy, you're out of luck. You're going to be dead today and you're toast. He didn't say, if you had just pursued some type of technical, scientific way to preserve your life, you might be okay. He didn't say, buddy, get off the cross and go join the priesthood. He didn't say, even go get baptized. He didn't say for him to do anything. Go start a charity, go do good works. He didn't say any of those things because, and this is the point, Mike, there was nothing he could do except trust on the one who is dying beside him.
Amen. And I think, Carl, my hat's off to this group as well, because it's nice that you were able to go somewhere and you had disagreement. Right. What you didn't have were battles, and we see that way too much in the Christian world today, where we have battles over stuff and just vicious and horrible things are said. And it's nice to see that sort of a open-mindedness to look at different ideas. You don't have to agree with them. I mean, you can agree to disagree. Now, we're going to switch gears here a little bit. I don't suppose you saw any of these members at Burning Man, did you?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Hey, but don't forget, Mike, the Burning Man's a pretty big event, and I'm not really sure whether they would be going to Burning Man or not. But no, I didn't see any of the Mormon transhumanists at Burning Man. However, that's a really interesting question because, of course, this year the theme for Burning Man is iRobot. 2018's Burning Man theme is basically a transhumanist theme, so it kind of fits. It fits that mold.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because again, here goes Carl right into the thick of it, somewhere that you would never in a million years imagine a conservative Christian evangelical person to go. I mean, when I was in my 20s or 30s, if they'd had Burning Man, I'm sure I would have been there, but it wouldn't be seeking God. Now you go there. And what drives you to go to Burning Man, and what do you find when you're there?
Well, last year I went, and I've been monitoring this culture for a long period of time, primarily monitoring it because it represents a significant social, cultural side to world change. There's no denying that. It is kind of a petri dish for postmodernism. It's a petri dish for reenchantment, this idea that we can find some kind of new meaning in our existence. It is really a place where futures are being considered and then even lived out in this model community, however that's going to, however that gets panned out at the end of the week. And I went last year, and like I said, I've been monitoring for a long time. I'm hoping to go this year. I still haven't snagged my ticket. I missed out on the ticket sales. I mean, the ticket sales are crazy. In half an hour, all the tickets are gone. Hopefully I can still get my ticket. There's a few other windows of opportunities that'll come up. Last year when we went, I went with a good friend. His name is Bob, and we set up a camp. And at the camp, we put up a sign. Bob's wife made it for us. The sign said "Camp of the Unknown God," which we took straight out of Acts 17. Acts 17, where Paul goes to Mars Hill. All of these different temples at Mars Hill, and he's spending his time with the men of Athens, talking to them about spiritual things, using their worldview, acknowledging their spiritual worldview, acknowledging all these different shrines and idols and temples to the various gods and goddesses, and he leverages all that to bring around the gospel message. So he basically took the same approach, saying, hey, this place is a type of Mars Hill. It is loaded with shrines and temples and tons of spirituality. It's all very, very spiritual. In fact, last year's theme was radical ritual. The entire event was ritualized. And so we took that approach of Paul. Let's emulate that. Let's use that there. And so all we did, Mike, was hang up that sign, and we waited for people to come. And of course, we interacted with people on the streets and in different places. But people stopped. People walked by, saw our sign, literally came up to us and said this: "Who is the unknown God?" I mean, are you serious? What an easy way to start a conversation. You know, they are coming to you. Who
a
is
great door opener, man. It's wonderful. And again, my hat's off to you for going, because a lot of people wouldn't go. You know, I think Coach Dave Dovenmeyer, he goes to the I might butcher the pronunciation of this, the Hugalos, I don't know if that's it, Jugalos, conferences, and he goes out there and preaches and talks to people about God. You know, that, I mean, really, Jesus didn't say, go talk to the believers.
Right.
You know, he go talk to the non-believers. So, you know, Carl, you've got a new book, and I don't want to butcher the name here, so I'm going to read it. Game of the Gods, the Temple of Man in the Age of Re-Enchantment. Tell us a little bit about that book and when we can expect to see it.
Well, it's a book I've been working on for 3 years, and it's the culmination of the research I've been doing really since the early 1990s. And it breaks down the idea that there is a worldview battle between two opposing paradigms. The one says everything is connected. We're all one. Man, nature, God, we are all connected. The other worldview is, no, we're not all connected. There's a separation. Reality is comprised of two. Now, my friend Peter Jones is one that really has fleshed this out from a theological point of view. That being two-ness, God and everything else. God is different, distinct, and completely unique from creation. And so my book takes the idea of oneness, man, nature, and God, and then looks to see how does that worldview project itself through religion. And I take you along as I go to different interfaith events, the G8, G20 World Religion Summit. How does it play out politically? I take you along with me when I was a part of the United Nations Millennium Forum. How does it play out culturally? We go to Burning Man. How does this play out in all these different kind of ways? And then what's the historical movements, the thought process that has taken us to this point where it has become a dominant, accepted worldview, whether you think about it or not, whether you realize it or not. We are being keyed up to think that we're all connected. We're all one. My first taste of this happened back in 1997 when I attended an event called the Global Citizenship 2000 Youth Congress. which was a gathering of about 300 school teachers, educators, and school children. And Robert Mueller, who was at that time a retired official with the United Nations, was using his World Core curriculum to steer our group towards developing a curriculum for Canada's education system that it says, we're all global citizens. We're all one. We're all part of Mother Earth. We owe our allegiance to Mother Earth. We owe our allegiance to this idea of a evolving universe where we experience our own divinity, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was so, and it's so embedded already in the culture in subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways. So the book explodes all of this. I take you with me. The book is not simply a survey, it's a journey. And we're walking through this together, historically walking through it, and then walking through it right now to see how this is being played out, how this is being lived out. And then asking the question, where is our hope? Where really is our hope found in? Is our hope found in everything becoming one, this grand assimilation? Or is our hope found in the one that is different, the one who is other, the God who is separate and distinct and above creation?
Wow. What an exciting read that's going to be. Now, when do you foresee it being finished?
Oh, Mike, I'm really, really hoping it'll be done and start to go into people's hands by the end of June.
Wow, that's literally right around the corner. Yep. Now, guys, I got to tell you an interesting story about Carl. We met out in Las Vegas for the first time, and as part of that conference, at the conclusion of the conference, we did take a tour bus out to Area 51. So everybody's getting on the tour bus, and Carl gets on, and my wife was with him, and Carl goes up to the little, like the luggage things above the seats, just like in an airplane, right? And he goes to put something up there, and he pulls a book out. You remember that, Carl?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm looking at it. It's right sitting there on the shelf, not far away from me.
Now, tell everybody, what was that book?
Can I grab it real quick, Mike?
Yeah, grab it. Grab it.
Okay. All right. I didn't know you were going to bring this up, but I'm glad you did. And I'm glad I could actually see where it was. Yeah, I think I reached up to get my camera or something because I put it on my camera and I made the light jacket up there. And here's this document or this sheet of papers staring at me. And I don't really think much of it, but I grab it to take a look anyways because I'm like, okay, did somebody leave something on the bus? And so that's the back side, just blank old paper. But the front side, here's a FEMA document. FEMA First Responder Training Manual for Weapons of Mass Destruction, Radiological Nuclear Awareness Instructions Manual. And it's just like, oh my word, this is wild. I remember going for supper afterwards with L.A. Marzulli, Brian and Audrey, and we were sitting around the table, and I said, guys, I found something on the bus today. And after I picked it up, I walked off the bus, and you and Jeannie are there, and I walk up to you guys and said, does this belong to any of our group? I mean, really? Does this belong to anybody here? And you're shaking your head going, no, I never saw this before. And so at supper time, I put it, face down. And then I said to LA, and I said to Brian and Audrey and the others around the table, I said, guess what I found today? Crazy. But Mike, this stuff happens. This stuff happens. I remember being at the United Nations, and somebody who had walked through the bathroom before me had left by accident a videotape of a bunch of UN meetings that were kind of closed door, and it was just sitting on the back of the bathroom stall. And I'm like, I walk out with this thing in my hand, looking around going, who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? Weird.
Yeah, it is weird. And the funny thing is, that bus, if I'm not mistaken, had come down from Salt Lake City, Utah.
Oh, no kidding.
So no saying where that bus had been before it came to us, but the bus did come from Salt Lake City, Utah. So It's an interesting little tidbit there. Well, Carl, you know, exciting stuff that you're doing. God bless you for what you're doing. How do people find you and get a hold of you?
Right now, the best way to do it is through social media, Facebook or Twitter. Just look at me up, Carl Teichrib, on Facebook, and that's where you'll find me. My website has been sitting in limbo for a long time, and Lord willing, it can go up before my book is released, and that would be great. But at this point, the best thing to do is find me through social media. And one of the things they can do is look for you, Mike, because you're connected with me through Facebook, and people can track me down that way.
That's it. You know, folks, go ahead and go to our website, hearthewatchmen.com. Click the contact button. Send me an email through there. It'll come right to me. Fill the little form out, and just tell me, hey, I need to get a hold of Carl, and I'll forward your request on to him. I do also want to remind you, folks, that the next Hear the Watchmen conference is in Long Island, New York, August 9th through the 11th. And you want to get busy and get your ticket, get your tickets and book your hotel, because this thing's just exploding. Part of what we're doing there on Sunday after we conduct baptisms is we're going out to where the Montauk experiments were conducted. Now, we're not going down in underground caverns or anything. It's now, believe it or not, a park. But there's a tour out there, and we're going to go out. We're going to have some people that are talking about Montauk there for you. It's going to be an incredible time. Again, hearthewatchmen.com. Get busy and get your tickets. Carl, again, thank you so much for being with us. We got some interesting stuff going on here in the year. And folks, we're going to connect with Carl and see if we can't twist his arm and get him to come and appear in person at one of our events. But Carl, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of what you've been doing.
Hey, thank you, Mike. I appreciate the time we can spend together.
And by the way, Carl, I'm looking behind you there at your library. You might want to get some more books. I don't think you have enough books back there behind you.
You know, all this just got set up here about a month and a half, 2 months ago now. So my library was literally in boxes in a garage for a year until I could find a new location for office. So now my research location is back up and running. So I'm really thankful for that.
Well, God bless you. It looks wonderful, and your work is fascinating. Folks, that's going to wrap it up today for the Watchman's Report. As always, remember, there's nothing that you can't do without Jesus in your heart, except nothing at all. Get out, get busy, activate your faith, do something to serve the kingdom, and do it today. God bless each and every one of you. We'll see you next time here on the Watchman's Report.